So good afternoon, all. My name is Bharath. I lead the customer engineering team here at Niveus Solutions, and we are a premier Google Cloud partner. Along with me, I also have Pranith Alagwadi, who is the senior solution architect or cloud expert in the data engineering team with Niveus Solutions. And I also have Prasad Pai, who's a senior solution architect, also cloud expert in the customer engineering team, who's been putting a lot of solutions around the AI/ML space today with us, right? So I see around 20, 28 participants who have already joined in. I'm hoping many more would join. Let me quickly check. There is a chat comment. Yes. Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, we are in the golden era of artificial intelligence and ML, right? I mean, these words have pretty much, I don't know if it's a right thing to say, but they have been more abused than used pretty much everywhere, right? Anything that happens is it's like, yeah, that's AI ML, right? So that's exactly what we are here to find out today, to understand what is artificial intelligence, what is machine learning, how are they different, and how are they basically helping change the world, right? A realistic example is, a lot of these sci-fi fantasies which existed a few years ago are pretty much reality now, right? Let's say, an app suggesting you what you should order based on the preference that you have, shown it over a couple of, iterations, right? Or how much is your expense and what is it that you need to cut down in order to achieve a certain goal, or even as simple as your watch telling you when to drink water, right? So pretty much all of these are driven by the underlying machine learning or AI that is basically driving these innovations, right? So let's start with the basics. While the whole idea of this agenda of this webinar is to get familiarized with the artificial intelligence and ML, the various models, the custom, etc., and see how they are helping organizations do predictions and basically run data-driven decision making, right? Customers are not interested, irrespective of what product or what services you provide. Customers are not interested in AI and ML. What they want is a convenience of operability, an easy way to do something at best experience. But all these things underlying your products and features or solutions can come from having a really good AI ML strategy as a part of your digitization journey, right? So with that, let's get started. So I'd like to bring upon Prasad here, right? Let's start with the basics. So Prasad, what according to you is the basics, or what exactly is artificial intelligence? If you could also throw some light around what is machine learning and how are these two different?
Yeah. Thanks, Bharat, for the introduction. I hope I'm audible and visible, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
So, artificial intelligence is the set of techniques that existed and that will continue to exist for to enable the machines to mimic human behavior. And this journey has started since even 1956, right? So we can imagine how probably today humans are trying to find the fossils and try to replicate how dinosaurs lived once upon a time. But the only challenge there is there aren't enough data points and we are left to our imagination, right? But today, if humans have to enable the machines to replicate humans, there are a lot of data points. We have data in our databases. We have our machines that we are using, which are generating data, right? And adding to that, there is this invention of cloud, which is able to store this vast amount of data, what we call as the big data. And it is also able to process this data in the form of the various computes that we have on cloud. So it is the cloud that is enabling, it is accelerating the way artificial intelligence techniques are getting evolved, right?
Mm-hmm.
So AI is the umbrella for all those techniques. Coming to ML, ML is one such subset of those techniques where we apply a lot of the pre-existing statistic methods like linear regression and extrapolation to the business problems. Say, for example, this is a well-defined problem. We are in the garment industry and we want to know what is the height of a person if you are given a certain weight. So if we sample a certain set of people in a certain area, we get enough data points to plot these two, and we see a pattern, and we can plot a straight line around them, which probably passes through most of the points, right? And this is a statistical method called as linear regression, which we are aware long before. So ML is that application of these statistical methods to solving such problems. Let me just add one more terminology to this called as deep learning. So deep learning is again another subset of ML where we are still applying statistical methods, but here we are trying to make the machines think like a human. For example, uh, how does a human probably identify a square? So he would see that there is going to be four lines, and secondly, all the four lines have a certain dimension which are all equal, and all these lines are perpendicular to each other. So you see a hierarchy of steps that are involved in a typical logical thinking. So deep learning is another subset of ML where there are hierarchical problems to be solved. I hope that answers the question.
Great. Yeah, I think, sorry. Yeah, so that was a good analogy there, right? With, very layman examples of, how a linear thing was done earlier, from a garment factory kind of a view. So that now I think we are able to kind of differentiate between what is artificial intelligence and what exactly is machine learning, and which is a subset, and so on and so forth, right? So we are, while implementing, AI or ML as a part of our strategy for the decisions that we make for our growth, for boosting our businesses, we come across terms like stock AI, right? We come across terms like custom models and some models which we need to bring, the glossary that we need to build, the machine learning algorithm that needs to be built, right? So Pranith, could you throw some light around this on what exactly are these, stock versus custom models and how really they impact, the businesses?
Sure, Bharat. So, any good ML algorithm needs data to learn from. That is what machine learning effectively is. But one of the slowest and most effort intensive parts of machine learning projects is actually collecting labeled training data that a machine learning algorithm can learn from. This is really time consuming. But good thing is, for a lot of common use cases, you don't even need to start from scratch, right? You can take advantage of pre-trained models that have been built, tuned, and maintained by someone else. Google Cloud's AI APIs is one such example. Okay, it already can transcribe audio and video files. It can pass through structured and unstructured documents, forms, invoices. It can detect faces, and not only faces, emotions and objects in pictures, and a lot more. So when you are starting off, you can use these pre-built models, but sometimes you need something highly specialized. An example is you want to build a model that has the ability to scan medical x-rays and detect the presence of a very particular disease, a very specific disease. So do you start creating the model from scratch now? No, not necessarily. Even here, there are a couple of options. Okay, you can use AutoML, which is Google Cloud's AI tool that makes this process as painless as possible. You can use your own data and train this model, and you don't even have to write much code unless you want to, of course. And the other option, you know, you know how the open source community works, right? There are businesses, scientists, researchers, hobbyists, and all of them create all kinds of ML solutions on a daily basis. And they all collaborate on a global community on GitHub, right? So no matter where your project is, it is highly likely that someone somewhere has already solved the problem you're facing, at least to some degree. So this is where you can leverage the power of the open source community on GitHub if you want to. And effectively, Bharat, if your business is not using AI, ML today, they shouldn't get bogged down because an ML solution suited for them is already being built by someone else.
Got it. Got it. Now, I think you mentioned a very good example of the Vision API, right, for the audio video files and also for image detection. So I think even in a lot of our implementations, Prasad would recollect, we have already used it. An example there I would like to state at this point of time is, for a seamless onboarding of a customer, right? Gone are those days where, we had to go stand in those long queues in the bank to open an account, apply for a loan, or even, give a signing instruction and things like that. Right, today, opening an account can be done in flat, 3 to 4 minutes, and we're proud to have been associated with some of the leading banks in India, and we have built this platform for them, where if we have used this Vision API, or to do the OCR, where the users can just scan their PAN card, scan their Aadhaar card, and all the details are captured already, right? So this is in the background. There's a lot of AI/ML learning that happens, right? So that these APIs are now very well effective and can be used out of the shelf, right? Without really having to do much. But this is how they're actually impacting, right? So you did mention a couple of Google ecosystems. So Prasad would like to call in here, right? How does the AI/ML landscape of Google Cloud look like? Like, what are the out-of-the-shelf solutions that are available? What are the other solutions available which you can further build upon in order to enhance your whole or catalyze your whole AI/ML strategy?
Yes. So I think extending from what Pranith said, so Google's mission was, and it continues to be their mission, is to organize the world's information. And the same thing is being extended to when we started Google Cloud. So all the Google Cloud components are embedded with ML in it. For example, we have a data warehouse called BigQuery, which is a serverless data warehouse, right? So if at all you have your data, which is you use for your analytics into this BigQuery, you can run your models using SQL statements, and SQL statements as lengthy as probably 50 statements. So your linear regression models or your classification models are for a quick trial ready to go with a BigQuery ML. So we create a lot of chatbots, and Google Cloud has a wonderful natural language processing platform, which is a platform to understand human conversations in various languages called as Dialogflow. So in Dialogflow, in a typical chatbot, when we design the flow of conversations, each conversation in that step can be uttered in various ways, and they can be interpreted in various ways, right? So we do not need to pre-train these, in the sense these individual utterances are automatically pre-trained as we enter those conversations, just like what Pranith said, right? Unless you want to change a language, again, there's a provision there, right? So these are some of the highlighted products within Google which have an ML embedded in them. But if you are trying to have your own pipeline of ML products, right? We have a product called Vertex AI, which is a unified platform to develop ML pipelines, whether it is for the tabular data or for the image data, video data, audio data, and so on, right? So you can enter your data, version your data, and train your data using what Pranith mentioned as auto ML, and then even deploy the data, deploy the model, and create those endpoints which have to be used by your business applications. So this end-to-end flow is typically available in a SaaS version, as I would say, with this platform called as Vertex AI.
Great. I think we have implemented Dialogflow, quite a few of our customers, right? One is typically chatbots came into existence where people started using them for FAQs predominantly, right? They were a preset of questions and there are a preset of answers, which you type in or you use a voice to text translation, which is embedded within the Dialogflow itself, right? You ask a question and it could answer based on the questions or answers that were available within that data set, right? But today, like you said, it's an NLP platform, right? So you can ask pretty much in any dialect, any accent, and the data, and in turn, your Dialogflow can call the respective APIs, right? Identifying what exactly is the query, fetch the right set of information from the respective databases after undergoing all your authentication, and then display back or tell back the results that I'm looking for. For example, in an ideal world, we are looking something like where a sales organization need not have to go through million reports to understand what were the sales like for the last month. It could be as simple as asking your chatbot, so what were my sales for this product in the month of November 2021? And the Dialogflow, along with the APIs and other technologies, has this intelligence to understand this, form a query the database, get the right set of data, calculate it, and then come back with saying, this was your sales value that happened during this particular period. Right. So that's the kind of intelligence that we are looking at coming out from chatbot, which are not mere, what is the status of my delivery kind of a thing, which we are using, right? So that's a great insight. So Pranith would like to ask you here. So these are some of the auto ML and custom ML points which Prasad told, right? So how can, I know we have audience from, various industries like BFSI, healthcare, retail, etc. here, right? So how can various industries basically leverage this AI ML technology or the ecosystem that Google has to offer? Basically, where can they implement this and how can they boost or catalyze or accelerate their whole growth story?
But the applications are so diverse and so powerful. Let me just try and portray a few examples. Okay, so there's this mass media entertainment conglomerate that use Google Cloud for personalized recommendations on their platform. Now, this is not surprising. It is in fact common to implement this using recommendations AI. But here's the clincher. It was able to play the exact clip from the recommended content to maximize the consumer's time spent on the platform. So this means if you and I were recommended the same movie, the clips shown to you and me were different based on our viewing habits.
Mm-hmm.
This is this is just one powerful application of Google's ecosystem. Apart from this, you already mentioned chatbots, and chatbots again. Remember, they are 24/7 across every channel,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not just on the app or not just on the website. It can be across channels. You can even use this to get alerted when social media posts reference your brand so that you can increase engagement and directly interact with them. Obviously, personalized promotions, loyalty programs, new customer acquisition, like you mentioned, getting meaningful insights from product reviews instead of just getting a weighted average of 5 star, 1 star. What is the sentiment the reviews are talking about? What is the one factor that is deciding a person in favor or against your product? A retail outlet could, forecast demand for the seasonal events, Christmas, Diwali, whatnot, right? And if I can dial back time to sometime around last year, exactly around November. So Harvard Global Health Institute and Google Cloud, they worked together to improve COVID-19 public forecast. This dashboard is live even today. We can have a look at it. It was giving the first responders and healthcare organizations the best possible information to prepare for what lies ahead. Okay, this means cases, deaths, other metrics for US counties, states, and the same solution was scaled to several other countries. Literally every industry, Bharat, can and will benefit from a well-designed ML model.
Thanks for that, Pranith. I think pretty insightful there. Covering the media, the healthcare as well. I think I tried covering VFSI part of it on how ML can be used to predict the spend patterns or expense patterns and give you better suggestions on how you can save more on and where to buy, what to buy, kind of a things. All these predictive as well as prescriptive nudges that can be provided to the end users, basically to enhance their experience, which should bring in more customers to the product, right? So now since we've started talking, we have now understood what is AI ML and what kind of solutions exist around the cloud ecosystem and what kind of applications can be done, right? Let's now start talking about, let's say, as an organization, irrespective of which vertical you are, if you were to start planning your AI ML strategy. We are towards the end of December. Let's say next year is kicking in, and of course, all the organizations would have started doing the planning for now, right? So if I were to include the AI ML strategy as a part of my growth success, quantifying it, right? What are the key considerations that should be considered as a part of that? And also, while designing AI ML strategy, what are the key considerations? So Prasad, if you could throw some light on that, that would be great.
Yeah. From my experience, I would like to say that so whenever we work with a customer, first we should, even before having a strategies, there are a lot of individual use cases that a customer wants to implement, and in each of those use cases, it is the idea of being prudent that should I just be intelligent or should I be really artificially intelligent, right? What I'm trying to say here is that can this business need or this use case can be satisfied by just using a business rule that is coming out from my analytics, which is the data warehouse and analytics anyway, or do I really need to build a model? I think we sit with our customers to really understand that and really cater to whether we need to develop a rule-based engine that can serve the business need, or is there a need to develop a model? Secondly, having worked with customers in multiple sectors, predominantly BFSI, healthcare, media, manufacturing. So we do have the domain expertise when we build these models, but we would need equal participation from the customer end if we have to interpret some of the results that we are getting. So the domain knowledge is a key in building any of these ML models. And finally, I would like to say that it is the discovery of the data, because sometimes the data could be in the databases or it could be unstructured, and we need to gather from the customers on premises, and some of it could be owned and controlled by the customer, but some of it could be owned and managed by some other vendor, right? So the discovery of the data environment is the third and the final key considerations that we discover when we sit with a customer to really develop a very good AI/ML strategy.
Great. So as a follow-up of that, Prasad, right? So we have been implementing a lot of these things for our clients, right? So what are the various the solutions and basically the best practices that need to be followed, right? Let's say I'm an organization and I have enough data and I want to solve a particular business problem, right? But I don't know where to start from, right? So how am I going to? I know you did talk about defining the problem statement, understanding it, but if I don't have a team but I still want to leverage what AI/ML has to offer for me, how do I go about with it? And what are the kind of best practices that are available, which I need to follow?
Yeah. I think my colleague Pranith mentioned about AutoML, which is like a SaaS platform to gather the data and train the data and get some initial insights. I think AutoML is a good experimental platform for a customer to even develop a problem statement. And once that problem statement is developed and concretized, it is then we could really go for a custom model where we have our own machines and we manage our own data sets, right? So, and as the number of use cases, as the confidence of the customer grows in the platform, and as the customer comes with new and new use cases, that is when we would ideally suggest to have a good pipeline called as the MLOps pipeline, which is just like a DevOps pipeline for managing our application code. So what this pipeline does is it enables you to version your data sets, because there are n number of iterations of training that would have run on various data sets. So you can version your data sets, register those data sets against the models that have been built. And then it's not that all the models that are built are deployed. So there are these three things. There is a data lineage that needs to be established as the number of use cases increase. And that is when we get into developing an ML ops pipeline for you.
Got it. Thanks for that, Prasad. So I know we, at least now, I don't know what level of experience our audience has today with respect to AI/ML and implementing it. At least now we are sure that AI is not restricted to a robot coming and killing people and trying to take over your world or things like that, right? Which are all the myths, and of course there's some amount of fear and things that is there, right? That brings us to the next question where there are quite a few concerns, let's say risks and even ethical conundrums around using AI and ML for achieving success, right? So these always come with that package. So Pranith, if you could throw some more light before we get into the case studies on what kind of work, what various industries have been able to achieve by leveraging AI. If you could throw some light around these areas which I just mentioned, that would be really great.
All right. Bharat, unlike traditional software engineering, ML is a little different, right? We can't really use dummy data in a testing or pre-production stage, because we need good data for the algorithm to learn, right? So let me give an example. Netflix has this Cinematch recommendation system, and it was organized as a competition. With they have a data set of 100 million ratings generated by around 500,000 users, rating about 20,000 movies, right? And their objective was to improve this Cinematch recommendation system by 10%. The data set was obviously encrypted, so on, and yet hackers were able to de-anonymize the data, right? And of course, various lawsuits came into play after this, but you can imagine a company like Netflix could not ensure privacy at that time. This is about 10 years back when maybe the industry was still nascent for AI/ML. But yeah, how do we counteract this, right? So one solution is differential privacy. So this is introducing some noise during the processing to generate enough ambiguity that privacy impacting inferences cannot be made in the final output. Okay, and while we do that, we have to ensure that predictions are accurate enough to be practical. So this was about the privacy. Okay, and now let's talk about security, right? And for any AI/ML practitioner, the story of Microsoft's chatbot in 2016 serves as a cautionary tale. In 2016, they debuted a Twitter personality called Tay. Okay, and the idea was Tay to engage in online conversations with Twitter as a fun demonstration of their NLP technology. It did not go well. Within hours, internet trolls had gotten Tay to tweet on a wide range of offensive messages, including stuff like Hitler was right. And Microsoft hastily had to remove this chatbot within 14 hours of being live. So what exactly happened here, right? This was an attack called adversarial machine learning. So what happened here is a hacker is able to get into the training data and make the ML system do wrong things. Okay, it messes with the training data and changes the outcome of the model. Right. So what do we do here? How do we solve this? You know what? Much of the security practices that are there in the traditional system will apply here as well. You know, your traditional data governance, access controls, assuming that between interfaces, the security is handled by the other system, right? So you take care of these basic security principles and the rest will come into play. And of course, the beauty of this problem here is uh, to, to ensure that security is intact in ML, there are ML models to improve security to begin with, right? So,
sure. Sure, I think that covers the the aspects on it. There are risks, of course, like any other technology, but there are also ways to mitigate it if you plan your roadmap well in advance, and moving the entire security, like we call it, as a shift left concept, right? Where you don't start thinking about security after you're done with your prototype and you are ready to deploy, right? You started from your development stage of it while you're planning, and you start introducing the security at various levels, whether it's to be at developer level, it could be at a code level, it could be at data level, network level, application level, right? So if you can, all those can be taken care. I'm sure there are multiple ways in which all these threats can be mitigated, right? So that brings us to our next question, right? Which I'm sure our audiences are very eager to hear about. So Prasad, I recollect while we were working on this particular use case earlier, right? This is for one of the media houses who produces a lot of these movies, and a lot of Indian Bollywood movies are a big hit in the Middle East as well, right? A lot of Indian population is also there. This is one of the the auto ML or the stock translate API that is there, when it basically translates Hindi to, let's say, a language like Arabic, right? A lot of emotion, a lot of things are lost during this particular translation, where of course you will be able to see the translated wordings where there is speech to text, and then text from one language to another language, and then back there, right, which goes on your screens. But however, the grammar of it or the emotional content of it, since it's a movie, and the emotions and the punchlines actually matter a lot, right? But during this whole translation piece, a lot of this was getting lost, right? And we have implemented a solution for this, which is up and live in production. So would you like to talk about that, and also some of the other case studies that you have been involved as a part of solutioning, and where a bit of AI or ML has been used?
Yeah, I think Bharath, you just also mentioned about the roadmap, and Pranith mentioned about security. So I'll just speaking about this particular use case about the media company that we work. I'll also try to highlight the gradual confidence that the customer develops with AI/ML technologies with us, and how we progress on to better and better use cases, right? So here we had this media company approach to us, saying that, okay, can we have a lot of subtitled text? This is not just not the video, but just the subtitled text. And we want to convert some of this subtitled text, which is streaming in Arabic, to English, right? So Arabic is one of the Asian languages. And as you all know, Asian languages are having their own set of what we call as agglutinations, in the sense there is always a root word, then the plural and singular, or is it the past tense and the present tense, and then there is the gender associated with that. That can provide the variety of pronunciations around that particular root or that root word, right? So what did we do here, right? We first used AutoML and took the Arabic text and ran through an AutoML and identified a certain base level of accuracy. And then we exactly knew that there are going to be these issues of agglutination. So we also had a good language expert at that point of time, who also validated it with the expert on the customer side, who basically developed a glossary of the Arabic words and their equivalent English words. And AutoML allows you to build such glossaries, right? So whenever in the subtitled text there are these agglutinations, the glossary just replaces them with the equivalent of English. So with this AutoML, we did this work as a POC for, I believe, for a month or so, and we were able to improve the accuracy, base accuracy by nearly 20%, right? And that is when the customers got into a mode of confidence, and then we moved on to doing a custom ML training, and that's how we are today at accuracy of nearly 95% and more. So today, I think the media producer is streaming around 40 movies, and all the subtitles of those 40 Bollywood movies are being served through us, right? And the journey not just stops there, right? Having gotten the confidence of this particular use case, the customer also talked to us about, can we take their video content and now start developing a platform where we can identify the actors, how many times the actors fought in a scene, what were some of the moments of this particular actor in this entire movie, and so on and so forth. So we are also building that kind of a platform from them on their video data, right? So this is the gradual process in which the customer gains confidence, we being a solution provider.
Right? And it's very important. Before you go to the next use case, right, I would like to state, I'm a polylingual person, so I speak multiple languages, but Spanish being one of them. So there was and the importance of having this translations being done very accurately is very, very important, because I remember talking to one of my clients, back in the days while I was in the South American continent, where the translation from Spanish to English may be great, but English to Spanish wasn't so great there, right? So there was something that was told, and then we had to kind of Google, use the translate there, try to understand what it was. But the meaning that it was giving was something out of the context, and it was like, is that person actually saying something like this in a public forum? I don't want to quote what it was, but it led to so much of confusion. And then when we actually asked the professional translator who was sitting with us there, what exactly is this person saying, and why is he making a comment like that? And they're like, no, that's not what it actually means. It's a local slang that is used, and this is what it means, which is basically, yeah, let's move on to the next topic, we're getting late. It was nothing offensive or anything of that sort, right? But today, if I were to take the same slang of which was used, and then I enter it in the Google Translate API, what translation I'm getting is very, very accurate and in the context of what it is, right? So this is an example how with more data sets, the machine learning automatically, kind of helps you improve your algorithms to give you a much, better outputs over a period of time. And that's the reason it's called learning, right? It's not something that's there bang on and accurate from the first time. It takes time, but with more data sets that you feed, with more information that you feed, your prediction or your translations become much, much more accurate. Right. So, Prasad, I think you also worked on one more where the document AI, which is a very, very successful offering from Google Cloud, has been implemented in for a couple of our customers. So we'd like to talk about that as well.
Yeah, I think here again I'm reiterating Pranith's mention of stock models, right? So Google has understood how most of the world's forms look like, online forms look like, right? They have a checkbox, a text field, etc., right? And they have learned a lot of such documents, right? That comes as a pre-trained model to us in the form of what we call as a form parser. Similarly, Google also has learned most of the invoices of the world in different countries, how typical invoices have. They have a quantity, they have a table, they have a quantity, serial number, price, total, date, so on, right? So they have this pre-trained models available in the form of an invoice parser. So they are also available to develop forms parsers which are as specific as a particular tax form for a particular country. So that is also available as well. And there is a similar roadmap to some of the Indian tax forms as well with Google, right? So here we had a telecom billing provider who used to get bills, who used to manage the telecom towers. And when they manage the telecom towers, they get bills from the vendors who provide them with the diesel, the electricity, and so on, right? So these electricity bills they come from a certain electricity board, and they all have a certain format, right? So this is what I was referring to as developing an AI ML strategy. So what we did is, instead of recommending the customer to develop a custom model for all these electricity bills, we segregated these bills according to various electricity boards, because the format of these electricity boards will not likely to change, right? So we fed them all through an invoice parser, because they more or less had a pattern of being an invoice. And then whenever there were any errors, we fixed that by developing some custom logic on it, by adding certain offsets to a numeral which was appearing on that particular bill, right? So we solved this with the help of a pre-trained model and some custom logic on top of it, right? And the same happened with some of their meter readings, the electricity meter readings, which are basically like a picture that is taken, right? So we used pre-trained models in the form of a Cloud Vision API. So there were certain bills which had a lot of variation in the pattern, and that is when, for those selected bills, we recommended to build really a custom model, which could be a little an expensive process, right? So that what I've just like to cover is that we work with the customer to understand which ML solutions really work for the business need that they're trying to solve.
Awesome, great, thanks for sharing that case study. I'm sure there are a lot of our clients who, a lot of folks in the audience who have this problem where a lot of these bill segregations still happen in a very manual way, and it's a tedious task for any organization, right? So that is somewhere where the document AI or the doc AI is something that can be used in order to solve this particular problem. There are several other use cases also where Google's AI ML ecosystem has been used to solve some different problems. So Pranith, can you throw some light on a couple of those other ones that come across your mind?
Sure, Bharath. I'll go with an example of, again, with recommendations AI itself. So there was this Swedish home furnishing company, no prize for guessing which, okay, which used this recommendation AI, and were able to increase the number of relevant recommendations displayed on their page by 400%. Just imagine 400%, right? And there was a tangible improvement in the conversion rate and average order value, right? Obviously, because of customer is seeing something which he's definitely going to like. So it increased a 30% increase in the average order value also is observed, right? So they were able to find the products they liked quickly and establish their preferred choice with as few clicks as possible, right? And it helps the customers find directly not something related to that, but also complementary products, expanding their customer purchase from a single product to an entire home furnishing solution, right? So you're buying stuff for your bedroom, so it's not just a cot, not just a mattress, the bedside table, lighting, sheets, pillows, amazing recommendations based on your choices and tastes. So this is a solution that really benefited from AI solution and Google's AI solutions.
Great. Thanks, Pranith, for sharing that. I think we have covered pretty much what we wanted to discuss, and the idea was not to have a work on how AI ML works and getting into the technical aspects of it. It was more to introduce folks to what is AI ML and how it can be leveraged to basically accelerate businesses, irrespective of the vertical. Like I said, BFSI, manufacturing, it could be retail or healthcare, and there are enough use cases which we have been implementing, which we have implemented, and which we have on the cards. Where we are putting together some of the solutions, right? So I would like to now check with our audience if they have any questions. They can post it in the chat, and we will be happy to take up one or two since we have around 2 to 3 minutes more before we wind up. And also in the meanwhile, we did speak about a lot of these AutoML and a lot of these APIs and the landscape of Google's AML solutions, right? So if any of the folks in the audience are looking to solve a particular problem, and if they even feel that yes, the AML can probably help us solve this, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to have a more carved out or a more specific discussion around understanding what your requirement is, and then come up with these solution approach on how AML can be used to solve either of your problems. So that is something we definitely can't cover in the 45 minutes window, but feel free to reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to connect with you and set up some workshops which will help us understand your problem and then put together a solution. The leap forward, yes, is good. Thanks for that, sir. All right, maybe I think we can take at least one question if there are none. Okay, there is a question. How NLP with speech recognition can be embedded with databases for respond to queries and context sensitive responses from a particular document? That's an interesting question. So Prasad, Pranith, would any of you like to take it up?
Yeah, I think I can take a stab at it. So I think Alak was mentioning with this, probably with respect to a chatbot scenario. This is how I have seen this implementation. So whenever there is a NLP based query and say I want to access my bank balance, right? So this particular question goes to Dialogflow's one particular conversation step. From there are a lot of options within Dialogflow to integrate it with any of your backends. I'm not talking only the databases, but any backend. So what we have are called as event driven functions, what we call as cloud functions.
Yes.
So they are the ones which will they can integrate with any backend that you have. And once you're connected to your backend, it is just you are connecting to your business logic where you are fetching that particular bank balance, which need to be served as part of a response to the request that was raised initially saying, hey, what is my bank balance, right? Yes, the entire way of, I would not use the word embed, but the way to integrate with a database right from an NLP layer does exist, and it is pretty open.
Great. I think this goes back to the same example that we were speaking about, right? Let's say it could be something sensitive with respect to my sales data, which I don't want anyone else to access. So a lot of authentication already happens at the layer during the login. And once you are on the application, if you're fetching, if you're asking for a specific question which requires the system to go back, run a trigger, right? Fetch an API and then fetch this from a database, then that authentication, whether this particular user is allowed to access that particular data is also taken care as a part of the authentication process, and only post that would that data be retrieved and displayed back, or whether it's a speech or a text, conveyed back to the person who's querying it. Great. I hope that answers your question, Alak. All right. Like I said, yeah. Okay. There is one more question. What are the more common ML algorithms used in AI? Right, you want to take a dab at it? What are the more common ML logs used in AI? Algorithms, basically.
Prasad, I think I'll let you answer this.
Yes. So I said there are two ways, right? One is a custom model and one is the auto ML. So when you're executing a model using an auto ML, the auto ML doesn't let you choose an algorithm. It automatically identifies an algorithm that is best suited to your data set. So it is only when you build a custom model, then you get to choose the algorithm that you want. And this is a task that a typical data scientist would do. He would probably identify, should I use a KNN means algorithm or a random forest algorithm, or should I just use a simple linear regression or a decision tree, right? So the advantage, I think I'll probably answer the another question more, saying that a typical data scientist would run through each of these algorithms and then see that, okay, this algorithm doesn't satisfy my need, and probably hop on to a new algorithm, right? And so this entire work of a data scientist to understand these algorithms, the SPM algorithm and the live Bayes algorithm. So these algorithms are actually automated by AutoML. So it automatically chooses a model, chooses an algorithm that is more applicable to your data set. I think, I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, great. I think there's a response from him saying thanks. All right, I think we have come to an end of this. It's 3:46. So let me just quickly summarize what we did discuss about what is AI/ML, right, and how they both are different, right, and how organizations can leverage what the technology has to offer in order to basically boost their whole businesses. What are the best practices to implement it? What does the Google Cloud's AI/ML ecosystem look like, right? How to build these custom models, how to train these particular models, how to use AutoML, which is available off the shelf in order to mitigate any of your risks or even to plan your strategy ahead, right? And also we did speak about a couple of cases ranging from media to the chatbot part of it, and a couple of them which we have implemented, and few which Google Cloud has been used, and a lot of larger enterprises are also being kind of benefiting from this. So once again, thank you, Prasad and Pranith, for taking out time and joining us on this discussion. To the audience, like I said, should there be any additional queries or any specific problem statement you're looking to solve, and if you feel AI/ML can help you there, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be more than happy to get in touch with you, engage in one-on-one workshops, and then take those things forward and come up with a solution for you, which will help you boost your business. So thank you. Thanks for joining, and have a great day.